Welcome to the Healing Collective podcast, where we explore the paradox of healing.
And we broadcast all of the healing codes to support a world of more heart-centered humans. This is actually the topic that I'm going to talk about today is...
Love it. Faces?
Like, I'm going through this really interesting phase in my life. Where mostly when I look in the mirror, I feel like I'm like the ugliest I've ever been. But there's like this way that I'm like just also can feel how healing it is to be like so frumpy. And like, for example, Taylor and I bought these at Marshall's last night. You know how little kids, this is the thought that just came to me before I got on. You know how little kids, like, they'll wear their superhero costume and their cowboy boots and their monster mask to like, I feel like it's a little bit of that, but it's also like I'm eating the healthiest I've ever eaten. I'm taking more care of my body than I've ever taken. I'm doing all the things, meditating, I'm working out, I'm doing yoga. Like, I'm doing all the things, but I'm like, I feel the biggest that I've ever been. But at the same time, there is like this freedom, like around food, because, you know, with all the work with Christy and stuff, who's going to be a guest on here. Can't wait. You know, it's all about eating like a lot of protein and a lot of like animal fats and putting butter on your food. And there's like this freedom, like I've stopped like demonizing food, or I would just create anxiety if I ate this way. Like, this checks and balances, almost like the same way that I was about money. Like, so there is like, my nervous system feels very safe. So yeah.
So there's a mismatch. Is that what you're saying? Like, my body feels safe, I'm taking good care of myself, and you had an idea that something would look or feel different when you were doing these practices?
I guess, yeah.
I'm not doing the things. I'm not working out. Well, I'm doing some things. I'm doing a lot of somatic things and fascia things. But like, my weight's really low. Like the lowest it's been since like I had cancer, I guess. And maybe before that, I guess high school. But I also feel the same way as you. Like, I have no lashes, and I haven't got a haircut in like a year, although I'm getting one tomorrow. But like, I got in the tub last night, and then I was on talking to my boyfriend, like on video, and I felt like I kind of looked like a dead person, like gaunt. Like, I could just see the lines in my face and like this concave, and I was like, I look dead. I look not good. Definitely was not feeling beautiful or sexy or anything like that. Of course, he had different ideas, but he's very affirming of how I look all the time, which I think I really need right now. But I'm feeling similarly, but I also make up that I'm not doing the things that I could be doing that you are doing. But maybe there's just a belief system of some kind of, I'm thinking about the Matrix and that idealized version of like what we think we look like, and actually how loving it is to just see ourselves for who we are and how we look. And we look all different kind of ways all the time, I think. But
yeah, I don't know, maybe. Like, I'm not getting my nails done. The way that I could see there's truth to that is, like, I can definitely see how like the images and magazines and Instagram have like programmed my brain to like, it's almost like this is the midline and you're always trying to get to that midline. And I used to work really hard to get to that vision or that midline with like my clothes and my food, just like everything. And no, I'm not, I forgot. And then, yeah, so I don't know what's gonna happen. I guess I just wanted to at least like what it looked like. You know what I mean? Like it's like, okay, if I'm gonna
Maybe
I'm a hard
maybe
time.
it's a huge outsourcing, but like I think a lot of my self-confidence or even me starting to more like my body or what I look like or has been built mostly through a feedback loop with men. And I think we can use that in a really mucky, shadowy way, or we can use it in a beautiful way. Like I kind of think about how we talk about Jim and Diana and like people seeing your highest self and reflecting that to you. And then it gives you this access point to see yourself that way. I have experienced like, yeah, like affirming, like complimentary, like attraction type things from other people, and not just men, I guess women or people too. That if I hear it enough, I kind of start to believe it. And then I kind of start to see myself that way. And so almost like any other quality or any other way that someone could appreciate me, when they
Mhm.
pay me that, I see it more. Like I had whatever the inverse of self-confidence was, I would say in high school about my body and how I looked and my face and all that kind of stuff. I covered up my whole body in super baggy clothes. I still do that a lot of the time. Like I did not want to be seen. And I would get a lot of attention, like unwanted sexual attention, I guess, back then, which was part of the big cover up. It's somehow in my 20s when I actually became sexually active, I started having a totally different thoughts about my body and how I looked. I guess because I had created a feedback loop that was positive, and I was like, oh. And then that, at least like around sex and stuff, like I feel very comfortable, like being naked with someone that I'm intimate with. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that like a lot of people have given me good feedback in those moments over the years. And now I just believe it. Now I just believe it for myself. I think I still have stuff about my like own face and like aging maybe a little bit or whatever. I think I have things like that about my certain features that I still don't feel super confident about all the time or don't always like in myself. Sometimes I do. But I think
Interesting because well, you basically it seems like we've been talking about all these different ways where when people give you feedback, you
mhm.
believe them.
And we
And
mean
that's
this
how
over the last couple of days because Lauren and I have been
yeah.
in near constant communication because mostly I've been triggered out of my mind.
Well, I just think that's so interesting, right? It's like you're creating your reality based on the feedback that you get from other people. And
Mhm.
I feel like the invitation that you keep getting is like,
Mhm.
but what's your reality?
Mhm.
And so when you say that to me, I'm like I feel like that's a way that I'm like, I don't know. I mean, it feels like it's really important for me to reconcile
Mhm.
my relationship to my own body, my relationship to my own orgasm, my relation without sourcing it
Feedback.
from feedback from others.
Mhm.
That feels like the journey that I'm on. And it feels like the journey that I've just accepted that is for me. And
And we
like,
might have got to the paradox only 10 minutes into the pod, which is like that it's probably both. You know, there probably is some natural outsourcing. And then there is that it probably everybody has their own journey around that invitation of like, what is my own self-worth outside of what anyone thinks of me?
I've definitely noticed that when I'm in a space of seeing myself as attractive, I get that feedback
Right.
around, you know what I mean? There's like, or energetically, like I'm noticing some things. And like when I was younger, I had the same experience. Like I felt super comfortable with sex. Mine and my body, and I got a lot of positive feedback about my looks. It shifted for me when I got pregnant.
Mm.
And then I found it again. Like I really lost my identity of feeling attractive for a while. Then I found it again. And I like was looking back at all these pictures and just being like, stupid mind things like, oh my God, I
Mm.
wasted my worst years on X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody that didn't give a fuck, how cute I was. And I can just see how hard I was trying from like 30 to 40, one to like find my authentic look
Mhm.
because so much of it, like when I started dyeing my hair, I mean, all that just started, tattoos, all that started when CLG really. So it's like,
Mhm.
what do I want to look like? What is my, that just started then. And then I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like, so there is something like more authentic brewing. And I think there's also part of the four pattern that's like that compare,
Mhm.
where it's like what's coming forward, even in like my preferences about what I want to wear, it's like doesn't match what I think I should be, what's like the highest expression of like how I could be dressing.
Mhm.
Like I'll look over there and be like, I wish I could put myself together like that. But then when I authentically get dressed, I want to wear like sequins and like boots that don't match and like lots of weird jewelry. Like it's like very eclectic. And then I look at myself and I'm like, this is what I wanted to put on and this is fun, but I'm not seeing what I think I should see. And I look over there and I like what I see over there. Why can't I just want to dress like that and be like that?
I
It's a
think I
lot.
just went in like an 8 pattern around all the things you just said. Like I can feel so many things. Like I don't know if it's denial or if it's just like I don't notice comparing myself. Like there's not even people that I'm like, oh, that style. I want that style. Like, I don't notice a lot of comparing. And I do have a thing of like, I have things I like to wear, and sometimes I confuse myself around if that's my authentic style or if that's
It's like you
part of
like
my.
the textures or something.
It's so based on texture, weight, and material.
Yeah.
Like it's so based on that. It's so based on sensations and not on what it looks like. And in fact, it's usually like boxy or loose or like not very classically feminine, I guess. Like a lot of people would probably, you know, question that I identify mostly as female in a lot. Like I dress
But
pretty, I think,
yeah, kind of
androgynously.
lesbian, more
Yeah,
lesbian.
like sort of, yeah. So like that sort of androgynous look sometimes. And like if no people were alive on planet Earth, I know what I would be wearing, and it's not what I feel like people want to see me wear. But again, even that, maybe that's programming too, because it is more, it's not. Part of me doesn't want to be seen. And when you were saying this thing of like
Right.
the
And I'm feeling
comparing,
that too, also, actually, the not wanting to be seen, like sweatpants every day, like sweatsuits, like big clothes.
well, and it's like, to me, it's like that 8 thing around vulnerability. So I think there's one way to talk about all this and think about it like it's an outsourcing and we're not really like embracing ourselves or seeing ourselves. I think that is a thing. And I think for me, it shows up a little different in that my default will be like, you can't see me and I'm going to hide and I'm going to armor up or do whatever. Like there's all kinds of things. And so for me, being seen and having that feel safe and having a good feedback loop around being seen is vulnerable. And there's like actually an innocent part of me. I think that's why it's been so, I've had a really, like, I don't have a negative association or think it's something that hasn't served me, that there's a positive feedback loop with safe men is a part of me building some internal safety, I think, and like a different way to see and experience myself that's more positive, because those have been moments a lot of times of real innocence and vulnerability too. And so I think that's part of why I can experience sex as so healing a lot of the time,
Well,
because
I think where I get confused when you say stuff like that is like when I track the men, none of them have been that safe that I know about. And then two, like with this current man, you kind of talk about it like almost he's the first person to ever give you positive feedback about your looks or
all the time. Yeah, like not in
yeah,
more
so
just
it's
intimate
like
moments. Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like, I guess when I put that together, it's like what I've heard you say multiple times is there some kind of more authentic part of you that comes forward when you have sex. I don't think it's the men.
Yeah, maybe it's
I
not.
don't think that the men are doing that, but I think that you have a easier job of like it's easier for you to positively project on men, and as a result pay attention to what you need from them and get it.
I
But
see.
it doesn't feel true to me that they've been like safe or they've been
Well,
supportive, like in the way that you're.
I hear what you're saying. And I like when I call you for coaching because they said something dumb and I'm triggered, like you're probably mostly getting some of the like not best moments, and they do have other moments. So I do trust myself around. I do trust that in those moments when I can feel the heart center open and like connection that feels authentic and enough safety to at least draw that out of me to some extent, or I use them to draw it out of myself, however we want to do that. But like I do have an experience like with Copilot, like there's been some level of trust that has happened, and I guess I would call it more connection or something, or intimacy. There are these moments where there's a certain, maybe it's the one level, I don't know, but
Well, I guess I could say that's true for me too. Like in every single male relationship, there have been those moments, but because it wasn't consistent or because of the other moments, it couldn't feel safe enough for me to like create a healing experience. So like with this person you and I have been talking about for days, it's like the way he switches, like the whiplash experience, like I think in the beginning, I was able, like with some of my people in the beginning, I was getting like these positive healing experiences. Then the whiplash started happening. And then it actually it's like if they made deposits, then the withdrawals got much bigger than the deposits. And so then it kind of it would be hard for me to say now that like, you know what I mean? But those moments were definitely happening for sure, without doubt. And
I think I had a lot of those really consistently for months up front before. It was months and months of that. And then the whiplash started happening and it's been getting more extreme, and I feel way less available for intimacy, right? Like in this current moment.
Yeah, that's
and
what
so
I'm
I
saying.
do see that, but it's not like, I don't think that other stuff wasn't real. Like I'm not discredited. Like those are still real for me. And I still have those experiences, and I still, maybe
mine was like, so if it was 7.5 years, it was like maybe a year of more positive than the other. And then like downhill, like less and less and
6.5
less.
years.
And like, I guess the one I see in you that I see in me that I get scared of is that because of those positive, I work so hard to keep trying to see things that probably weren't there, to like, because it was such a positive healing experience at the beginning, like, and I hoped it would go back to that, or I thought XYZ. And this part that I feel like, I know that I believe everything happened just the way that it was going to happen. Like, I don't even know how much control I had over the timeline of everything, but I mean, 7.5 years of that whiplash is a really long time. And there was lots of consequences, like, financially, emotionally, energetically.
And with that experience on your side, it makes sense to me that you're like wanting to put attention on, where I'm at in that, which is probably the beginning of the whiplashing. And it's been getting a little louder the last couple of month or so or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been an invitation, like, it's a lot of sadness, like observing you and knowing that all the things that I told myself and all the ways that I rationalized things and how I kept finding the positive. And like, I can also see the ways that was like inherited too, and like with my mom, like I 100%, my mom went through so much, her best friend, when she was like 19, her best friend got struck by lightning on a horse. Her fiance was killed putting up something on a house, like one of those antennas on a house.
Mm.
And she got cancer, like at a time that cancer was even more dangerous, you know? So she goes through all these traumas. And like a year later, she meets my dad. And also just like her generation and what she dealt with and what she saw in men. And like her pastor told her, like 75% of men will cheat. So basically you'll be lucky if you just find one who doesn't, you know? That's literally this is the kind of stuff. And, you know, and my mom, you know, is a Trump supporter, like definitely has this like way of, she can really find compassion, might be one way to look at it. Or, you know, she has a lot of understanding for like narcissistic, patriarchal masculinity patterns. And so to her, my dad was like the best guy on the planet, like literally hung the moon. They also, I think, you know, she didn't have sex before she was married. They were married by the time they were like 22, 23 years old. So like it makes sense to me. And he wasn't an evil man. He was a good man in his heart. And, you know, when I have compassion for like what he went through and who he became and the tools he had. So I believe that their relationship, I guess is what I'm trying to say, was a huge upgrade from the relationship they saw their parents have and the relationships they saw around them. But there was like a lot of abuse and neglect and just really difficult things in our house. And if you bring it up, she will literally tell you it did not happen. And anything that challenges her positive projection of him gets, because there's so much that her whole, you know, reality, there's so much that it would bring up for her to have to like see that in a more well-rounded way. And so I can see that like there is some programming that I called in my bloodline to deprogram. And that was so true for me. Like, you know, in a way that no other man before him, Haman definitely was like on a pedestal of like the level that I could find the good in the level of pain and disruption that was happening. It was next level, right? And there was benefits to it because like one of the things I take away from that is like I can still love and my heart is still completely open to this person who kind of like ripped me apart. But so, you know, it taught me that there's just so many lessons to it. But that's when I listen to you, like, and we talk, and it's like holding that I love you, holding that I actually don't know what this is about, but holding like these strong feelings in my body that I do know, and that it's not my story, but I've lived the story. And then like being like, oh, like you're looped into this. So you can see yourself more closely and be with yourself and love and accept the choices you made and what you needed to learn. And that's just, you know, and I think like with you, it's manageable. Sometimes this happens with Taylin, for example, or I'll project in the future, like if he does some of the stuff that I did. And it feels like somebody's like ripping my organs out of my body to imagine being the parent of myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Thinking about, it's like one of the fastest ways to wake up. You know, people have this thing of like, well, what advice would you give your friend? What if your friend had the same thing? What would you tell your friend? And it's like, oh, and you get like a different level of like advice you should maybe be giving yourself in that moment. It's a whole nother level. If that was your child, it's like a whole other level of, because it is our child. It's our inner children that are
I think it's the most authentic way of being with ourselves would be to treat ourselves and the different parts of ourselves as if they were our
With our
children,
own children.
and it is really like when Taylor was young, I would like tell myself, we're not that much alike. He's more like his dad. That was a story I had for a long time.
Mm.
Then he started getting older, and I'm like, And then when I found out that we were both Pisces rising,
Mm-hmm.
something really shifted. I'm like, oh.
Was that from the reading I gave? Or
I don't
did you
know.
already know
It
that?
might have been a little bit before that, but it wasn't like, it was definitely around COVID that things really started shifting.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh my God, actually, I think we're so much alike that it's like really hard for me to accept.
Mm.
And I was thinking the other day, like, oh, like, is Taylor the embodiment of what my feminine, I mean, not my feminine, my masculine is more like? And I was thinking about his, qualities but yeah, so it's very interesting to, he's definitely been a way that I've had a lot more compassion for myself. Like I remember when he was 4 and like how innocent he was, and I wasn't innocent at 4. And I didn't know what I knew, I thought I felt kind of weird or off or bad. But now I know I was like acting out my sexual abuse like really early, like 4 or 5, 6 and stuff. And but my innocence had been impacted, And when I saw him, I'm like, oh, like it was like this contrast, like I wasn't having that experience. But then other things like right now he's in high school and he wears pajama pants and like Crocs and a hoodie every day. He's very attractive. And I'm like, in high school, I was super comfortable with myself. I wore like really comfortable clothes. Like I was like watching him going to school today, and he's just like so settled in himself. And it's like, it's helping me to see like those were parts of me too. I remember a lot of the really insecure moments, or I remember this or this or this. And like, I can look at him and be like, oh my God, he's so attractive, and like, we definitely look alike, and like, we don't look exactly alike, but
you do though.
Just those types of things. Like, I'm really grateful for the ways that he helps me to, see and appreciate myself. But if it's that having him has changed the most, like how I deal with myself and how I deal with others, because I can always go back to that reference point of like, well, with my own kid, it really changed. Like as a principal, as a teacher, let me say this to listeners, when you have that teacher who doesn't have kids and you have this sense like something's missing and then I get it, you're right. Like it is totally different. And I've seen it with myself and lots of teachers that I have taught, like you are not the same after you have kids.
That feels real. There was also something with kids with me where I was just like, my body's not even my own. Because I was nursed and pregnant for 4.5 years straight. So there was like hour to hour demands on my body. It was just like, I mean, Finn nursed every 2 hours for like 2 years. He started to go to 4 like twice a day, but he slept in the bed with me and would nurse through the night. And then I was pregnant again already when he finally stopped nursing. I was pregnant, nursing Finn, and had cancer, but didn't know it yet. So the milk just stopped because I just had nothing left. But it made, I think he was probably barely getting anything, but it made for a really gentle weaning process because he just was like, I'm all done with milk, mama. But I think it just was kind of not happening anymore. So it was just kind of an easy transition, I guess. But then I was pregnant and then I had a newborn. And so it was more than 4 years. I didn't even sleep through the night one time. And there was like a constant energetic and nutritional demand on my body. And I was just like surviving. Like it was
pretty big time to disassociate.
I was not a good listener during that time. Because if I was listening, it would have been like, get me the fuck out of here. And I'm not doing this. And an overcorrection, I imagine. So yeah, that was pretty strange. And then coming out of that, the one person in my life that I shared my body with by choice after, when Parker was like, he went to formula at some point, I think also because my body was just kind of shutting down a little bit, but like that person I didn't have real connection with. Like my ex-husband and I's relationship was such a mess. There was no intimacy. We didn't talk about anything. Like everything was just shoved down, denied, avoided, not felt, not revealed. And then my body was like, no. Like I tried to make my body a yes every fucking way I know how. We took classes. I read books. We did toys. We did.
Body is amazing.
So many things.
Way. It's like,
and my body was like, no. And it wasn't until I finally was like, it's just a no. Like I would recoil almost when he would touch me.
Yeah.
And it was just, at that point, it was so many years of just overriding and just like surviving.
So many, I would even generations to some degree. Like,
but then I was like, what the fuck? Like after that, I was like,
so
I don't know.
Uncomfortable when our bodies like rebel, and I've like obviously seen, even with my sister, she has so many things that she has to work with in her body, and it's so exhausting and painful for her. But at the same time, it's like her body is like, no, none of these toxic things can go into me,
I mean, I have that. And my body is so sensitive now. Right? And it's like, nope, not this, not this, not this. And, I do a totally different level of honoring than I used to, but like I mostly notice overriding around attention on other people, mostly around work, like I'll work longer than I really like. Towards the end of the day, I'm like, I don't really want to do these last 2 calls, but they're on the calendar and I said I'd do them and I'm going to do them. And so I do override a little bit there and then I'm okay afterwards, but I'm tired. So there's, and that's been a whole journey for me this year, just with like compulsive working, workaholism and all that. And it's unwound a lot. And what I notice now is like, I used to be able to just ignore it and just keep working indefinitely. And now I can't. Like I've unlocked and unwound enough stuff that it gets out real fast. And I'm like, oh fuck, I can't. Like I can't work like I used to. Which I imagine is a good thing. But I notice it and I bump into it. And even now I'm working like 40 hours a week. And sometimes at the end of one of the longer days, I'm like, no, like my body's like, I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that persona interview I did earlier today. Like, don't tell me what to do. Because when I was driving, I'm like, okay, so then how do I do that to myself? Right. Like, how am I telling myself what to do? And how am I rebelling against that in myself? And I guess going back to that, like beauty, I can feel my body. I guess in this moment, I could see the way that it's true that my body's like, I've been doing shit your way for a long fucking time. And it's not
you just
working.
Started doing my thing, like
right. And then you said like, you want to listen to me, you want to have a relationship with me. And now I'm getting to do some of the stuff I want to do, like eat foods with lots of fat in them and have thick thighs and not get these fucking acrylic nails on, that hurt and sleep and, and just whatever, take baths and wear sweatpants that feel great. And like,
allow lymphatic fluid to move freely through the body.
We're still working on the lymphatic fluid. It's not moving at the end. That's actually something, but
it's like you just started doing all this stuff. What?
Right. I just
really,
started,
and you're like, why aren't they? What? After and then 40 years,
my brain or some part of me is like, well, when are we going to look cute again? When are we going to like be like Instagram ready, And my body's like, this one. Like, oh, you want to take me and shoot some Botox into me now after we just got all those chemicals out? You know, it's just like,
I I was thinking about how what you're saying about like when all the nice good safety is happening and then it's not happening. I mean, I could make up stories about seasonality or whatever, but like when a lot of consistent safety was happening and like positive feedback and connection with my boyfriend, I was dressing completely differently, way more feminine, way more put together. Like, and that wasn't like it just kind of was happening.
Yeah,
like,
that was
like,
a weird thing. That
you were
felt
like, what
like
the
it's
fuck?
like, right. And did that like, it felt like that's never happened before in your whole life. Would that be true? Or has there been times?
There have been times when that's been called forward a little bit, but not consistently, not in conscious awareness like that. And not, I think for like that felt more just like me settling into my feminine more than me cosplaying as girly, which I did in my 20s to go out a lot or whatever. And I can do it, but it didn't feel like those felt like authentic to me. Like even
Yeah, our pictures from our 20s look pretty similar.
Yeah.
Like basically like
but
drinking a lot of vodka, wearing very little clothing.
Right. And we were actually together, like we were in Hawaii and I was like, oh yeah, this is, I've been wearing some of these clothes all summer.
This is me
and
now.
you were like, what's this? What's this? What is this outfit? What is this dress? And I was like, And then I had my first fight with him while we were in Hawaii and I can see, and I can see that a lot of that backed away.
Yeah.
I actually saw a TikTok where this guy was like, you think your woman's bringing too much masculine energy? That's because you're not being in your masculine and so that she can go be in her feminine.
Right. Oh,
that's on you.
This. When we had that like magical trip to Sedona, like Cayman and I, that I have a really hard time like going up. I had that experience so fully, like it literally felt like I was a flower and I felt myself completely blossom.
Yes.
And so there's like this, here's a paradox, right? Is like, I do think the highest design is that, for example, like our parents were not traumatized and they were grounded in their beingness. And as a result, we exuded our highest design of both our masculine and feminine energies and then kept creating that in our reality. And it was like balanced, like, you know what I mean? Like, I definitely think the highest design is that we support each other to have that balance and that balance is the high design. And it feels like that where we are in evolution and humanity is like, let's play this game. Let's strip humanity from most of their core needs that they're designed. And let's see if they come back to realizing that those were their needs. And then let's see if they can find ways to source them, even if we take away most of the ways that they are normally sourced, right? Because obviously, I'm sure you can see that like the other side of the coin is, well, he hasn't been that way in 3 months and that part hasn't come forward. So it's like, well, what if he leaves? Or what if he's not that way for 6 years? Or, like, and so I think that's where I am is like, I'm having this there's this one particular vision of a woman, maybe it's me, in this like black dress that's like a cotton comfortable, but very like to my body. And there's just like this level of self-comfort and self-acceptance, but also feeling beautiful and feminine that I know that I'm going to, well, even when I saw myself at 50, right, in that walk, like that's what I saw and I felt, and I'm like, wow, I like her. And I know I'm in some kind of like healing reconciliation of not really ever, being that. I think it's kind of like the question of, if I had been raised in the best conditions for a human female to be raised in, I wonder how I would dress. I wonder even what color I would wear my hair. I wonder, like all these things, like so many things, like what would my most natural beingness have chosen.
Yeah, which
And
is like outside of all that comparing, I
right.
suppose.
Well, because that's the part where it's like, well, what's programming and what's, especially because, you know, even where I lived, an example is like everyone was blonde. Even if you had brunette hair, you dyed your hair blonde. Like it was like um like there's a lot of like cookie cutter messages about what you look like. You didn't even racially, there just wasn't a lot of different options, or religion, or you didn't realize there's like this wide range, and that there's an even more wide range within that. You know, I can be like super attracted to people like Erykah Badu, who's like next level, you know, creative and unique in her style. And like, wow, you could be that authentic and individual and creative and pull something that's not anywhere in your vision of how you want to look. And that's really, there's something really exciting to me about that. So anyways, I can see like the one who bought these Crocs and who wants to wear mismatched clothes. And, you know, there's a part of it, it's just like, there's probably this really alien, random way of dressing.
And it's don't tell me what to do.
And it's don't tell me what to do. And so I guess I'm inviting myself a little bit more into that. And there's some fear, because it's like, I keep feeling like, as long as I'm pretty and attractive, it's like, I'll do it if I can guarantee
conditional.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The only things that I know about of my authentic thing is that my body has to feel good in it. That's the only thing I know. But I can feel good and look baggy and frumpy and more like a guy, or I can feel good in it and look more feminine, and you know, and maybe it doesn't matter. But
Heyman used to always talk about comfort with clothes, and I remember being like, I never even thought about comfort. But now,
like in 1 second,
I only think about comfort. Like that's it. And it's like so comfortable that I wear it for 3 days. It's like, I don't change clothes.
Like Arya's clothes, like it's more about the looks. Like he likes color. He likes really and he likes it to feel soft. But I touch it and I'm like, that's a poly blend. Like I'm just like, no. And he's like, what? And I'm like, that's not cotton. That's polyester. There's synthetic fibers in that. And he's like, what are you talking about? It's so soft. And then he'll check it and it's like, and so now he'll like test me and I'm like, that's cotton. And we'll go shopping and stuff. And I'm like, these are like cashmere and cotton and like percale thick sheets and like these specific things, like vintage.
What kind of sheets do I have?
You have percale 100% cotton.
What's percale mean though?
It's like a style. Like there's sateen, there's flannel, like, you know, it's more.
How does one learn these things? Like where does one learn?
I think you have to be a Taurus moon who's obsessed with texture, but like my mom has sheets from her grandmother and they're these thick cotton, where it's like structured thick cotton, which has been washed so many times that it's insanely soft, but it's not that like slinky soft that like moves around too easy. Like there's some structure to it. And I'm like, this, and it's way harder to find that now because everything with mass production, it's like to make that quality stuff, most people aren't doing it. So I worked really, really hard to source ones that I think are good enough. But like that type of thing, and that's just like, that's how my body rests best, when there's like a certain structure, weight, texture, feel. That's what I fucking care about. Like, I don't care what style the sweater is, but I care about that it's not too heavy on my body and jewelry. Like, I'm not going to wear necklaces that, like, I have these super, super delicate ones, but if it's heavy at all, I'm like, no. Like, it's all about feel. And I could do that in masculine ways, feminine ways, and androgynous ways. A lot of the times it's kind of in the middle, but that's all I know. And because I know it has nothing to do with.
Yeah, I'm having some experiences of that. Like Taylin is also really into comfort and texture. And like, I was really thoughtful about picking out all the layers of my bed. And we've been buying like these big blankets for our couches. Cozy is one of the words that I wrote as like a part of my vision for this house. And I'm just realizing, I mean, obviously I had a house for like however many years, but I was not at all tracking what was going on, or, it was just, so to like be thoughtful about how do I want to feel in this space, and like even how does the couch feel? Like the first set of
that doesn't feel
furniture,
optional to me. Like I'm just
right,
like,
the first
I
set
would
of
not have anything before I have something that does not
is uncomfortable,
satisfy
right?
that. Yeah.
Well,
It's not even just comfort.
I mean,
like,
this is how I'm just saying this is like very telling. Like my first apartment, we went to a furniture store. Well, even my first apartment, I didn't look at any other places. I just took a walk. This one was available. I went to a furniture store. I like was like bought the whole thing that was put together, like, which is crazy now to think about that. But that's how far I've come in like 20 years.
Like yesterday, I had a really busy work day, but in between, my girlfriend Maya, who's part of the coven, just texted like, are you around? Like, I'm in Beverly and I have some time to kill. I was like, come on by. I had a half an hour, and she came. God bless her. Walked out of her car, no shoes. I'm obsessed with Maya. She does not give a fuck. She came walking into the house, and she comes in, and the house is, of course, like very tidy and clean and fresh, and like, and the first thing she did, we walked into the living room, and she's like, can I just, and I'm like, yep. And she just wants to lay on the big fuzzy rug, and people just want to people come into my house and they lay down on the floor. That's like their first move, is they want to lay on the floor in front of the fireplace. And I love this. That's why I curated the space that way, because we can light a fire and lay there in front of it and sit on this nice cozy shag white rug. And I'm like, all I fucking care about is how it feels. And I don't know, maybe that's why I'm a fan of sex and stuff too. But there's just really, but the experience of being embodied consciousness, it is about, I like feeling good. And maybe it's like 7 wing stuff too, combined with 8 less, but
but can you see the paradox of like, you like feeling good. And this week, one of the big things that came up is how much you feel bad from people in your life and how comfortable you are. But to me, it's like 2 different feelings, I guess. It's like one feels very like mental almost, and the other one is very like embodied, but physical matter. Physical.
Yeah, they're different things. And I probably could identify these as personas or strategies and start using them in more areas of my life.
Maybe you should just start with when you meet someone deciding to be friends or whatever.
Oh, honey, it's way beyond that. That's why online dating has been challenging for me, because I care about what you smell like and what you feel like. In my body, here we go, not safe for work. My body will reject people that I'm not supposed to be intimate with in like very obvious ways. Good. Like my body's like there are people that I liked and was dating and whatever.
Well,
we had sex.
I mean, that's a whole podcast.
That's a whole podcast, because my body will immediately, like, I can walk.
Here's the paradox of that. It's like, I would say like, let's use my example. Heyman, I didn't have sex for 6.5 years. I had opportunities.
Sure.
Nobody, this person I was drawn to like a magnet. And my body still, if you could ask me right now, if you could only have sex with one person for the rest of your life, I would be like him 100%. My body's just like all day, every day. And at the same time, there's all this pain.
Yeah.
If we go into like the 5D kind of conversation, like in a lot of that way of being, it's that your higher self is actually the driver of your body, and your body's just responding to the GPS of your higher self. So it's like,
I feel like even though I get in mental stuff and I'm in the shit and things feel unfriendly and things don't feel good, like it really feels like my body and nervous system drives me towards certain experiences for however fucking long I'm supposed to be in that experience. Like there's something
100%. That's the thing. Even with this guy you're with now, like I totally have to accept that. I think that my preference that some of the other people you did this with, I enjoyed them. So I was like, okay, I know you're doing all this stuff. And
to be fair, you've yet to meet.
And I'm not going to let go. And he's not going to let me. Like I am 100% certain, and I'm so sorry. And like, there's this, I literally in my body, I'm like, cannot wait for this to be over. I'm like, God, like, I just like being so honest. Like, I'm like, everything in my God is like, is he, what? And I feel guilty. I want to feel different, but I'm just like, oh, to this one. And I'm just like very curious about that. You know, I'm like, where does that come from? And why is that here, you know? And, you know, with other people, like I'll get annoyed at my friends' partners or mad at them for times, but that's different from just being like this, you know.
You hate it?
I'm just like, I am a very clear no.
So interesting, because you haven't actually been in his presence or ever spoken to him.
I don't need to, though. I know that about myself. I don't need to. Energetically, I can feel him. Just like I can. Like, you know, would I tolerate him a little bit more if we hung out? Would I be polite to him? Yes.
Do you feel like it's possible that that will change or no? Because I saw that with my friend Reese. It was like, no. And then you were like, oh, actually, he's fucking great. You were like, when you first met him. And then you were like, oh, no. Like, Reese is cool.
I guess if I wanted to hero you, I would say yes.
I see.
What feels true is like, no. Like, I have next level aversion to this one.
Well, maybe that's just what wants to come up in me more. I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm just being honest about it, because I like actually am so curious about it. And I'm like, well, you could marry him, you could be with him for 20 years. Like, what does that mean about what I'm feeling right now? You know, I just that it's just like a really curious. I'm like, I don't know that I have had this level of, because I mean, like,
well, maybe it just smacks of like the thing that you're moving through and experiencing right now. There's like similarities and parallels. So it's, you know, that's pretty,
yeah, it might be that
forward, you know, it's going to remind you of all that because it's so here for you.
I think the one piece there is something like,
and I have a client in 3 minutes. So,
okay. Last comment. Like, if I feel that someone has, I don't know what to call it, but like let's use my one of my other best friend, her last person. He was nice. I had no problem with him, but it was so clear they had no, whatever this energy, it's an energetic feeling that I could feel, like something. It was not there. It was just like
that of like that they weren't connected with a specific energy that like, is that what you mean?
There's like with her and her person now. There's just like this clear energy between them that's like they're here to do some work together. You know, it definitely felt that with Steve, even or I could even say with some of your friendships, like I could feel who, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, these are like, this is.
Do you think it's just like who is in my soul family versus who is like karmic and
like your Metatron, maybe? Like,
yeah,
Metatron,
like you're feeling my Metatron versus not Metatron.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know what it is, but it's like when I feel that's a part of it, there's just something that like relaxes.
You're like, okay, fine.
And I'm like, I get it. Okay. With this one, it feels like this random, like out of nowhere thing. And I'm just like, where did you come from? And how did you get permission to have access to her? Like, I do not understand. Like,
okay.
That, yeah.
We'll continue to check that out. To be
continued.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. We welcome your feedback. You can email us at healingcollectivepod@gmail.com. Our website is thehealingcollectivepodcast.com, at Healing Podcast on Twitter, at Healing Collective Podcast on Instagram. Special thanks to Ethan Luck, who produces. You can find him at Ethan Luck on all platforms.